Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 434, Merchants of the Dark Road.
Welcome, citizens of Meeple Nation. For the next 30 minutes, sit back and enjoy.
The Meeple Nation Podcast is sponsored by GameToppersLLC.com. Go to their website, check them out. They've got all kinds of amazing products, fantastic game tables. One of my favorite accessories are the game mats. I don't own a table, built my own custom shape for my game room, but I absolutely buy all of their mats for that table, and they are wonderful. 3mm thick neoprene mats with the stitched edges.
The stitched edges make a huge
They
difference.
really do. Yeah, they're fantastic. And the designs on these, I think, are second to none. Absolutely awesome. They've got a beautiful Ryan Lockett piece of artwork on one of them. The pirate-themed one, I think, is one that we all really like. I just recently got the Great Wall, and I
really
absolutely
wanna get
love that.
One that I'm really surprised that looked good on their website, but seeing it in person is Lava Mat.
Yeah, that
Very
one was really
vibrant.
good.
In contrast with the red and the blacks, it pops.
But if you go and spend this money on one of these mats and somebody spills a drink or something on it, aren't you just going, oh crap, I can't believe that?
I don't know what happens when someone spills a drink on a mat, Doug.
Well, you see a bunch of very large men rush really quickly to grab napkins and towels.
Is that a fat joke?
No, Nathan.
Okay.
Of course not. Game Toppers, absolutely fantastic products. Tons of amazing accessories for your table. You know, you won't spill your drink on the mat if you got it in one of their awesome cup holders. Is their 3.5 Kickstarter still running?
It's finished.
It is finished, but you can late pledge.
Yeah.
And
Kevin
I
does a really good job of leaving that late pledge open until he's pretty much fulfilling.
And I highly recommend, if you're interested in getting a table for your game room, go check it out. Go late pledge. All of the tables now have the leg kits for them, which is awesome. So you don't necessarily have to have a table to put it on. Buy the table with all the accessories, show up right at your door, set it up, good to go.
There's nothing better than a game topper showing up at your door, by the way.
It is pretty exciting stuff.
It really is.
We are the hosts of Meeple Nation. I'm Dave Holliday.
I'm Douglas Stewart.
And I am Andy Holiday.
And I am Nathan Howard.
Thank you once again, Doug, for being here and filling in for our slacker friend Logan. We are super excited to have you, as always. If you follow the cast, you know Doug has... how long have we known you now, Doug?
A year? Has it been
It's been over a year.
over a year? It's been a while.
We met Doug, and quickly he became just one of our favorite people to game with. So it was really great to have him here with us.
You're making me blush, Dave.
It was April 21st of last year.
Oh, you have your anniversary written down?
Yeah.
He looked it up in PayPal.
Exactly. There was a game exchange that took place. So
Very awesome.
we miss Logan. You can't replace a Logan Howard. That doesn't mean we're not going to try.
Now, if you also miss Logan, go on to meeplenation.com and look at his bio. Look at some of the pictures that we have of him there. Get your feel of Logan. While you're there, you can check out all of our blogs. We're getting quite a bunch of them, links to all of our episodes. We've mentioned this before on the website there. If you're looking for something specific, a certain type of game, I had somebody ask me once, hey, what's a good two-player game? And I knew that we'd recorded several episodes over the years. On the little search bar, just typed in two-player games, and it popped up several episodes that you can listen to. If you're looking for something specific, you know somebody who's looking for something specific, check it out at meeplenation.com. Or if you have questions specifically for us, feel free to email us at meeplenation@gmail.com. As always, we also want to give a special shout out to all of our patrons. We have a Patreon account now, and we love you and appreciate you so much. Thank you. If you like what we do, and if you feel so inclined, we welcome more patrons.
Yes, we are so very grateful for those who support the podcast. It helps a ton.
One thing that we do like to ask is if there is anything specific you would like to hear from us, if there's any bonus content that you would like to see us do, please let us know. You can let us know on that email I gave out. You can talk to us at Meeple Nation off air, or any of the various ways that we talk about.
This week we are discussing Brian Shure's Merchants of the Dark Road. After half a year of daylight, we must now prepare for the dark season. The roads will be treacherous, but they will still need to be traveled by a brave select few in order to keep our cities thriving. In Merchants of the Dark Road, You are one of these brave few merchants that will travel the dangerous paths between cities. While the job is perilous, fame and fortune await. Discover the capital city where most of your actions will take place using rondel action systems. Spoiler alert, rondels are awesome. Collect and produce items to add to your caravan, or sell these items to local heroes and hire them to travel with you. Manipulate the market price of items, visit the back alley cellars, or delve into a nearby dungeon for magical items to gain the potential for even more coin and more notoriety. Gather lanterns to ease the passage along the dark roads as you guide your caravan in the distant villages. Deliver goods and heroes to the best destinations and gain fame for your bravery. Balance the money you earn with the height of your fame, because your final score after a number of game rounds will reflect the lowest of these two values. After all, what good is a purse full of coin if people don't sing songs about you when you're gone? And what good is a song with an empty mug of ale? So Merchants of the Dark Road was a long game, but a very good game. I still very much enjoyed it. Liked the whole rondel system. You don't necessarily use a rondel to indicate where you're going, but there's the rondel board that is well done with a super cool magnet. First, I didn't realize a magnet was there and that this rondel was sitting on the board, and I was impressed with both Doug and Andy's ability to rotate this rondel while keeping it in place. You couldn't see anything that was the plug that was holding it in place. I just thought, wow. You guys got some really good skill at keeping that rondel in its proper place.
The rondel you're talking about is the market, right?
The market rondel, yeah. That dictates the value of the items, how much they cost to buy, how much you will gain by selling them.
I think they did a great job with the market. Both the rondel that they decided to use, the magnet that they decided to use inside of it is fantastic. The implementation of the market and goods going up and down in prices, I think they implemented that really, really well.
You could see where the market's going. The rondel spins in a clockwise motion always, but you have the ability to see how the market's going to swing to try to plan accordingly. That's just one of the features of this game. Doug, you got the Kickstarter version of this. Andy and I got the lame version of this, which was still phenomenal. Looking at some of these images of your Kickstarter version, they're pretty stinking cool.
Yeah, this game had phenomenal components. This game has absolutely the best metal coins of any game that I've ever played. The metal coins for the Kickstarter version are really, really fantastic.
And the lanterns and
The crystals.
Crystals are awesome, and the 2-layered player boards are awesome.
The little metal horseshoes.
All the components for the Kickstarter version were crazy good. I was so impressed with the high quality of the Kickstarter components.
When we played it, we were playing your lame version, and I have to admit, I was a little homesick for my nice Kickstarter version.
Good news, Andy. You can actually go to Elf Creek Games' website. You can actually pick up some of these upgraded items.
Oh, no
which
kidding.
I think is awesome.
That is great.
You can pick up the resource upgrades, patrons provisions, sleeves. You can just get the deluxe edition, the coins Doug was just talking about, pouches, wagon upgrade. All this stuff is available at Elf Creek Games website. If you have the lesser version, there are still options, which I think is great. Kickstarter exclusives I think are cool.
I disagree. As a general rule, I do not like Kickstarter exclusives. I love that these items are all available after the fact, because I despise Kickstarter exclusives.
You're exactly right, and that's the point I was trying to get to them. They're cool in the fact that they will allow you to enhance the game, but I think it's very uncool that that is the only way to get them. Once a company has that ability to reduce that, I just think that they're shooting themselves in the foot to not allow for an aftermarket purchase. Everybody's go, oh, well, it's exclusive. And yeah, it is exclusive. You're the first person to get it. It's for the company itself. It's bad marketing, I think, to not allow that aftermarket purchase. You're going to have people that didn't hear of the game when it was kickstarted and want to have that avenue. So I think this is great. This material and this product is available on their website.
We're looking at you, Simon.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned that we had the rondel for the market, but the board itself is kind of a rondel. So you're going around in a circle from action to action based on the die that you move up. Everybody's going to start with dice on their wagon, and you have 3 locations that 3 of those dice are going to be placed into. And then you're going to have a pool of dice at the bottom of your wagon. Each of those spots are attached to an action that you're going to perform on your turn. So the first action allows you to actually craft an item, and it goes onto your wagon itself. So your wagon has 5x6 grid, and each of the items that you can create will take up space in your wagon. Now, the items are going to be different sizes. Like the loot, which is fairly large, it takes up a 2x4 space, whereas a potion just takes up a 1x2 space. Depending on what you create, it's going to take up space in your wagon. And if you can't fit something, then you can't load it onto your wagon.
Too bad for you.
Just to clarify, the lute is a musical instrument, not a bag of loot.
That is correct, yes.
It's an L-U-T-E, not an L-O-O-T.
Yes, L-U-T-E. It looks like a little guitar or a ukulele, but it's a lute. The second action is to gain a lantern. There are 4 slots for your lantern to go onto your wagon. You're going to place a lantern on your wagon, or you get to place your golden die. Those golden dice are hard to come by in this game, but they will trigger different actions on the board that you can only trigger with that golden die, and you can use the golden die, whatever the face value is of that, as your movement instead of the other die that you chose to move up. Finally, the third action is either to gain 2 coins, or you get to manipulate the market 1 space, rotating it clockwise. And as you move that die up, you're going to take your action, move your wagon around that rondel that's on the board, which will open up additional actions that you can do as you visit different places in town.
When you travel around the circle, the path that you have to go, as Andy mentioned, whatever die you're going to use is the required spaces that you have to go. It's not an option. So if it has 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces on it, you are moving exactly 1, 2, 3, or 4. It's not up to. That is the exact movement that you're going to go. After you've moved your wagon to that location, then you have the option to use both of the locations that are adjacent to that endpoint.
At the end of your movement, you can gather horseshoes. So there is just a little bit of movement mitigation with those horseshoes because you can spend them to move either 1 more forward or 1 more back. There is just a little bit of flexibility in how you move around the board with those horseshoes.
Those horseshoes are limited. The most you can only
They are.
carry 3 of those, and you can only use 1 at a time. You can only use 1 of those at a time, so you can't manipulate and say, I'm going to move 4 spots and then use 2 horseshoes to move back. Only use 1 horseshoe to manipulate that roll. Once you're at location, you can use both of those locations that are next to that to take advantage of those.
On 4 of those spots, there's a little sort of additional action spot that you can use if you've activated that golden dice. Deciding how you're going to time using that dice can be really critical.
Which is funny because I actually never used my die.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought everyone used their die.
Cautioned me to not use it hastily, and I procrastinated way too long and never was able to take advantage of that.
I think it's one of those where you just got to use it very strategically. The buildings that come out are random. There are 5 buildings in the game, and only 4 are going to be placed on the board. And they'll be randomly placed. You're not going to always have the same spot that's going to have that building.
Well, and they're double-sided. So there's
Correct.
10 options. Only 4 of the 10 will be in any game.
I think it adds to the replayability and adds to the strategy and exactly when you want to use those buildings. Obviously, you want to use it at some point in the game and not just too afraid to use it. Saving that, number one, which building do you want to use that's going to be the most benefit for what you're trying to do? Or at least for me in the game we played, do I want to use this building? I think someone's going to travel to one of the towns, or I'm planning on traveling to the town on my next turn. I want to use this building now so I can make sure I have the right goods in my supply or whatever that building is going to supply me. I think timing is absolutely critical when you use that gold die.
You talk about when you end your movement and you're next to 2 locations, you will activate both of those locations. Nice thing is you can choose the order in which to activate those locations. You can land in between the same 2 locations multiple times throughout the game and do it different every time. There is strategy involved each time you land there. Do I need more goods right now? Do I have space on my wagon to carry the goods that I would get here? If not, then I got to do something else to first create space. And a lot of moving parts to that.
One thing to mention, you may have a cart full of goods, but you have to have someone who wants those goods. One of the spaces that you can visit when you're going around the city, the Queen's Commission space, that's where you're going to gain commissions that are going to basically be the different cities on the board, goods that they want delivered to them. For example, let's say that you got a commission for Night Poem, and that city wants a loot pistol and a potion. At some point when you decide to travel to town, whether you want to deliver 1 2 or all 3 of those, and then your reward is going to be larger the more goods that you deliver of what's on that particular commission. If I can get 2 commissions and try to fulfill 2 commissions at one city, my turn is going to be a little more efficient than travel to town multiple times, because there are potential dangers traveling on the road.
Which I think is one of the highlights of this game. When you take that travel action, you're going to be flipping over cards. You have options, either going to go on a lighted path, meaning that you have enough lanterns to spend to light your way, or you're going to take the dark road. When you take the dark road, it's a little bit more treacherous. Each path has benefits and drawbacks. If you're going to travel, immediately players go around the table and announce if they're going to travel with you. And if they travel with you, that increases the amount of travel dice that you're going to roll. And these travel dice, 6-sided dice, depending on what is rolled, is resources or the rewards that are available. Typically, the higher the face value on the die, grander the reward you're going to get. That's positive, right? Great. You roll those. However, everybody that goes with you has to take a die. So if you have one high roll and the rest are low rolls, those lower faces are typically going to gain you negative rewards. However, you still will be able to turn in commissions, be able to earn those victory points. You just have to pay the penalty that goes with it. The catch is, if you go on the lighted path, those people going with you, the player to your left, is actually going to get the first choice of those die. They're going to claim a die, claim that reward, and then you will be stuck with what is left. Kind of sounds crappy, right? Why am I spending the lanterns to take the last die and to absorb this penalty? However, you will get 2 rewards, as opposed to if you take the dark road, everything's backward. You get the first choice of travel dice, but then you only get 1 reward. There's 4 different things that you can get. You can get money, your gold die, deed cards, or wagon upgrades. Deed cards are kind of nice. Everybody will get one at the beginning of the game. They will give you the opportunity to score points at the end of the game.
Or money.
Or fame. I have a love-hate relationship with the scoring in this game. You have to have your fame up, and you have to have your money up, because at the end of the game, of those 2, whichever is the lowest amount is the points you're going to get. You can have all the money in the world, buy whatever you want, but it's like we said at the beginning, if there's no one to sing your song, what's the point of all the money?
The travel action in this game is
tedious.
That's a great point.
Not
so
really,
this game,
though.
like,
I didn't think so.
This game really moves very quickly, except for that travel action is just going to take a little extra time than everything else. And so if you have multiple people hitting that travel action in one time around the board, it can take a while to get back to your turn.
But it's also something that everyone can do simultaneously.
Right. I was involved, I think, in every... I don't think I ever sat out. I may have sat out one time.
Sat out a couple, actually.
But I was involved on almost every travel. I know it's Andy and Doug rolling the dice, so they're going to be really low, but there's a good chance they'll get 1 high, and if I'm the first to choose it, I feel like my chances are pretty good. I also had a horse to mention.
Wait, before you go into the horse, I want to argue with you a little bit, but I can't.
No, those predictions were very accurate. When Andy and I rolled the dice, they were very low.
Everybody has a horse to begin the game.
A steed.
A creature that's pulling their wagon.
A steed to pull their wagon. And each of these steed, they each have a unique ability. Early on with my first travel action, what I did is I actually took one of the upgrades you can get as an extra steed. I got a second steed to help pull my wagon. And this steed, when I wanted to, whatever travel die I chose, I could increase the value by 1. I was involved in almost every travel. I knew that I was going to be able to bump it by 1, and there was a good chance. And it almost always paid off. I think I only paid the penalty 2 or 3 times the whole game. And that was, like I said, being involved in almost every travel that happened.
I think that this game really rewards players who are paying attention to what other people at the table are collecting for their commissions and their heroes that they need to drop off. Because if you're timing everything in the right way, you can piggyback off that travel action almost every single time. And taking the travel action has its own benefits. I think want to try to take that travel action as a player at least a couple times in the course of the game. But you really, really want to try to go along with other people's travel actions. Not only does it decrease the downtime in the game, but it's also, I think, how you get a lot of your points.
Absolutely. I traveled several times in this game, and almost every one of them, I wasn't paying attention to what other people were doing. I was traveling with them just based on my steed and knowing that there's a good chance I'm going to get the reward. Almost never actually had anything to drop off with the travel. But Andy, almost every time that I traveled, I looked up and I'm like, oh, great. He's got 3 things that he's dropping off here with that same location. Andy benefited greatly by my travels.
100% agree with that, Doug. You definitely want to pay attention to what other people are doing. I will say this, though. I think depending on what strategy you're trying to go with, I was trying to get as many of the benefits that you gain for being the one that travels. That was the strategy I was going with. So I wanted to be the one that was actually doing the traveling more so than not. Honestly, there were a few times that I could have traveled and delivered things, but I wasn't quite ready to do what I needed to do or have everything that I wanted to deliver there. So I held off. And maybe that wasn't the smart thing to do. I don't know. I do like the complexity of that difficult choice of, okay, I'm not quite ready, but do I just go? Honestly, many times it depended on whether someone was taking the light road or the dark road. When you take the light road or dark, doesn't matter which one you take, you still get to pick a companion card. The person who's traveling picks a companion card. Now, if they pick the companion card that is furthest on the road, there's actually a bonus travel die that gets rolled. Your chances of getting a benefit instead of a penalty for traveling goes up at least by 1 die. So your chances of getting a good number go up. That, and then it depends on where you sit in the order of picking dice. And there were times that I traveled when I didn't even need to deliver anything just because my chances of getting a reward just for traveling were pretty high. I'm like, yeah, I'll go. I love the complexity of that whole travel action. Yeah, it can bog the game down a little bit. I think it's important when you do play the game that everybody does their actions simultaneously because it can really slow the game down.
In comparison to that, I was too cautious with my turns. I didn't travel because I wanted to maximize my turn. I wanted to have commissions and heroes that were going to the same city. I wanted to have those commissions where I was filling all 3 of those locations. And so there was many a time that I was passing on the travel action that definitely showed up in the score. You're absolutely right. There was a lot of times that you went without having anything to do, but you still ended up getting a benefit. I didn't go at all, and I definitely did not get a benefit. I didn't have any penalties, but there was never a chance of me gaining a benefit. Nothing risked, nothing gained. For me, was my big folly. And the next time we play, I will not be playing so cautiously.
Why I wanted to travel more is going back to those companions, Nathan. I had 3 deed cards in my hand that were based on companions. In order to actually get the companion cards, I have to be the one that travels. That is one of the reasons why I would hold off, can go there and deliver, but I really need that companion card that's sitting out there. Cross my fingers that the person that was traveling at that point in time didn't take the companion card I was looking for, because I was looking for specific companion cards. On my first play of this, I don't think I know I didn't use the deed cards to their full extent, but I scored a lot of points at the end of the game on our last play with just deed cards.
So the last game that we played was the first time I have ever seen someone actually lean into those enough to make a pretty big swing in the endgame score. I played this a handful of times. Usually those deed cards, they might add 2, 3, 4 points onto the end of your score. In fact, the first time that I played this game, I was actually kind of disappointed in the deed cards. I didn't feel like they offered enough to really go after. With a lot of games, those sort of endgame scoring cards, that's an entire strategy. And I didn't feel like that strategy existed with this game. And I still don't necessarily know that it does as a distinct avenue of gaining big points. But after this last game, I'm going to start paying a lot more attention to those deed cards because they really, really paid off for you. Like
I got
time.
16 points off of mine.
The crazy thing is, as well as it seemed Andy did on those, he gained a ton of prestige from those. Didn't you say you only got 4 coins?
Yeah, I only got 4 coins. Actually, I actually miscounted. We were talking. I had some that were actually victory points, not prestige points, and I counted them as prestige points. So I actually probably would have scored a little more.
Got 4 points because it only does the lesser of the 2, right? Coins are the other?
Yes, but the difference is if you know that going in, then you can focus on getting money.
Right.
Knowing that
during the game, knowing that it's going to be higher. And yeah. So that's a good point. Some of them are going to increase your prestige. Some are going to increase your money. Some of them are going to give you actual victory points, like Nate pointed out earlier.
Most of mine were, you can either gain prestige or you can gain money. So it was a way to balance my points. Like I said, I had 16 victory points that I got. But still, the fact that I was so unbalanced that I had to use all those cards to balance myself, to bring up my low score, Instead of being able to improve my overall score, being able to balance that scale was difficult for me in that position. It allowed myself to become so unbalanced. All that work to balance that scale didn't really give me a ton of points. You guys were further along on both the prestige and the money track. Even with my 16 points that came from those deed cards, I was nowhere near the running.
One of the things we haven't mentioned, when you go to either of the spots adjacent to that travel action, instead of traveling and trying to deliver commissions and heroes, instead you can just go visit the Ruins of Yin. What's really cool about the Ruins of Yin is this is the best spot on the board to get upgraded items. All 6 of the items that you can collect and put in your wagon, they're double-sided. The other side of them has sort of a gold foil version, and it represents an upgraded version of that item. And what's cool is if you deliver those items to the cities later on in the game, or sell them to the heroes, they're going to give you bonuses to your prestige and to your money. So sometimes it's nice to just stop at that ruins location and just try to get some upgraded items.
Not only that, in my opinion, the best way to get your quartz. When you sell those upgraded items to the heroes, you actually get quartz as well. You get those crystals.
That's right. And then it's the quartz you use to activate the abilities on your creatures.
Yes, that's exactly right. So when you gain a creature, you're going to have a couple of abilities that you can activate, but like Doug said, you have to use a crystal in order to do that. You can store those crystals in the same locations that you store your horseshoes, and there are only 3 slots. Can't just hoard up the crystals, and then kind of forces you, especially if you have a lot of the companion creatures, you have to use those abilities so that you can free up space to store more crystals. Have the horseshoes to have that flexibility for movement.
I love Merchants of the Dark Road. I think what's cool about this game is that conceptually, you are merchants with a wagon, and you're just trying to collect goods. You can either sell those goods for money, or you can deliver them for prestige. End of the day, that's conceptually about as complicated as it gets. But as you're going around to all these different spaces, each one of those locations offers, I think, really, really interesting choices. The mechanisms of the game offer up some really, really interesting decision-making space at each one of those locations. You want to buy your goods low and sell them high. But in order to do that, you've got to manipulate the game in such a way that you are manipulating that market. You've got to be able to use the dark market at the right time how you're using your movements to get to the right spots. Even though it's a pretty simple conceptual game, each one of the spots that you stop at, I think, offers up some interesting choices to make in order to work your way up that prestige track or make money. And like we've already said, you have to take the lower of those two, so you can't just lean into one or the other. You have to really balance both.
I have thoroughly enjoyed this game. So I played it 3 times. The first and second playthrough, the first one in particular, I had a hard time wrapping my head around exactly what was going on and what strategy to go for. Still loved all 3 times I've played it. This last time we played, I kind of just leaned into the deed cards that I started with. And whenever I saw a deed card that popped up that was somewhat related to what I was trying to do, I would nab it. Seems like there's a broad number of strategies you can go for. I like upgrades that you can do to your wagon. I took the upgrade that whenever I spend a die to create a good to go on my wagon, it came in as an upgraded good. And I had a lot of companion creatures, so I needed a lot of crystals, so I needed to sell a lot of upgraded goods to heroes. Kept me with crystals in my supply so I could fuel those abilities, and I used pretty much all of the abilities on my companions, and I think I had 7 or 8 by the end of the game. I like the different wagon upgrades, just a wide variety of them, and they do such different things. It can really help you flesh out a strategy that you're going for. I love the fact that you can not necessarily optimize your turn, but you can try to optimize your travel. At the same time, diversifying what you have on your wagon so that you can travel with other players can also be hugely beneficial. There's just such a wide variety of strategies you can go for. Great game. I love it. Solid game.
I'm very much looking forward to my second play. Feel that there was a lot of learning that went on in the first play for sure. Maybe some naivete on my part, not monopolizing on the traveling or working better to make sure that my scores were balanced so that I was more prepared for that end game. Thought the game was great. Loved the market aspect of it, the going around on the board and being able to take advantage of those 2 actions. For the most part, I felt that the game pretty quick. The travel still kind of bogged me down. That's my really only sore spot with the game, is that travel. And like Dave mentioned, 3 people take the travel action right before you, and you're not traveling on any of those. In my example, I wasn't necessarily understanding the game or understanding the risk That bogged the game down considerably for me. My suggestion would be travel. When someone's traveling, be willing to take that risk. Andy gives that advice of very seldom did he score negatives through that. The ability to travel and having that option to gain some reward far outweighed the option of doing nothing.
I agree. We kind of talked about this the night we played it, but it can throw off the cadence of the game. Maybe that's not a big of a deal to a lot of players, but for me, I get in kind of a rhythm. Pre-thinking out my turn, I kind of know what I want to do. I'm watching things. I get sort of in a pace of playing the game. Quick turn, quick turn, quick turn, and then all of a sudden there's this really long turn. And then you're going back to quick turn, long turn. And it kind of just throws off that pace a little bit. And it can be a little bit jarring. But like we've talked about, I think if you're just planning on taking those travel actions, taking the risks, just planning on going along no matter what you have on your wagon, I think it smooths out a lot of that experience.
I also enjoyed this game a lot. I'm really looking forward to another play. I think it's solid. There's so many different potential strategies that you can do. There's a lot that I still want to investigate and explore. In a game like this that has so many different things going on, I will usually hyper focus on one or two things. And so I don't really experience the other things yet. And I save those for a later play. Okay, I'm going to focus on this, and then later I'm going to investigate more. There's a lot more for me to feel out in this game. I'm looking forward to it.
So that gives you a taste of Merchants of the Dark Road. I think all of us have been fairly happy with the game. Nathan, I think you definitely need to run through another play.
I'm not disappointed with the game, but it didn't shine as much as I wanted it to. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. An additional play will mitigate some of those feelings that I have.
Most of those feelings came from the length of the game, though, right? Because it just took a long time.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
We'll see you with your lantern following that dark road.
Ooh,
Toodles.
On the dark road. Good job. As always, we want to thank you for listening.
Check out our website. We have all sorts of cool things there. Love those blogs. Get a deeper look into the writing side of Meeple Nation.
Join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. I look forward to seeing you there.
Follow us on Twitter, @MeepleNation. We also have Instagram.
Under the same name. We also want to thank our sponsor, GameToppersLLC.com.
We love their product, and they have so much goodness out there.
And we also want to thank Braiding Detergent for our music. Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 3. No, I'm dyslexic, sorry. Let's try that again.
Oh, am I doing the sponsorship this time? Excellent. The Meeple Nation Podcast is sponsored by GameToppersLLC.com.
Go to their website.
It's Dave!
Thanks, Doug.
Well, Landy?
Hey,
Yeah,
Landy.
He's the love child of Lando and never mind.
Lando and Andy. So...
steeds.
Steeds.
Steadeye?
I like Steadeye. Each of these Steadeye have different abilities.
Great. No, I
Don't
believe
encourage
that.
him. Come on, Nathan.